And last but not least is the impact area around championing global engineering. And so this one is led by the Global Engineering Initiative, and there's a large distributed team led by Patrick Miller, Alexander Meekalaham, Jessica Lamb, Kyle Eckhart, and others who are working on this team. And there's actually a dedicated distributed team that's supporting the work of the Global Engineering Initiative. And the big sort of piece that we're focusing on this year is the Global Engineering Certificate, which is basically, the goal is to have 10% of all engineering graduates by 2020 being global engineers, which means about 1,000 engineers per year graduating who also have the Global Engineering Certificate. To put that in perspective, there's about 70,000, 72,000 people in engineering programs at any given time, and about 12,000 graduate every year. So what we're saying is about 10% of new graduates, we want to have the Global Engineering Certificate by 2020. And what does the Global Engineering Certificate mean? Well, basically it's a way of certifying that those individuals who have achieved the certificate have an awareness of globalization and its impacts on engineering practice, are competent in exploring complex societal issues, are capable of performing leadership roles in interdisciplinary work environments, and have the ability to apply technical skills in a global context. We support this vision by delivering global engineering certificates in collaboration with Canada's leading engineering schools. So the program, as many of you know, is about working with your universities to put memos of understanding in place so that they can provide a lot of the programming that actually goes into achieving these major outcomes. So for those of you who are familiar with some of the history of this initiative, it predates the Engineering Change Lab. In a lot of ways, it almost even predates the venture model of EWB. The core team has been working for over 4 or 5 years on setting the foundations for this. And we're at a really exciting point now where a lot of the original thinking and the sort of collaborative work to build the foundations of the certificate are now bearing fruit as we have more and more universities signing up their memos of understanding and people starting to compete the certificate. So in some ways you could actually, if you're thinking about this relative to the Engineering Change Lab, this is almost in a way an initiative that predates the Engineering Change Lab that is much more developed in a lot of ways than what the lab would seek to support. In the future, we would hope that the lab will yield some initiatives like this that would have graduated from the experimental phase of the lab and are doing really amazing sort of work at a broader scale. So the basic components of the Global Engineering Certificate, there's the theoretical components, the 3 courses on Introduction to Global Engineering, Discipline-Specific, and Project-Based, and then there's a practical component that includes 120 hours of co-curricular activity. So this is just a broad overview of the program. You'll learn a lot more as you're implementing it. So in terms of progress so far, we have graduates starting to actually complete the certificate. I think there's actually a few more than 2 that have already come through. 75 students enrolled from just 2 universities, 5 university partnerships in place, and 5 more likely in the very near future that are underway. So when you think about the fact that there are only about 40 university programs for engineering in Canada, we've already got 5 in place and 5 that are likely to be in place very soon. So the goal by 2018 is to actually have the certificate adopted by all 40 engineering schools and to be getting towards that 1,000 certificates awarded per year. And so you as a chapter, there's basically, again, the opportunity to contribute, own, or lead. And basically what this comes down to is time frame. And are you this year setting things in place so that you can do it, put the certificate in place in the next couple of years, or are you actually shooting for it this year? And once you have it in place, it becomes goals around how many people you actually get participating in the certificate. So again, we'd like every university chapter to actually think about when in the 2016-2017 or 2017-2018 school year you plan to actually have the certificate in place. Because as EWB, when we look at our broader evolving engineering portfolio, there's a huge benefit to having all of the major schools actually signed up and have the Global Engineering Certificate to actually be a Canada-wide infrastructure for promoting the concepts of global engineering and for continuing to evolve the concept of global engineering. So if you're a university chapter and you're not already working on the Global Engineering Certificate, we strongly recommend that this is the place you start. It's a great foundation. It's totally aligned with this bigger vision of where we think the profession needs to be and the skills that an individual engineer needs to have in order to express socio-technological leadership. It's also the actual skills of global engineering map very closely to what we believe are the critical skills of systems change leadership. So by getting your global engineering certificate, you're also in many ways progressing your pathway as a systems change leader. And it's a great example of how initiatives, as they become more mature, can actually start to link and compound, and you can start to get scale at a country level, and you can start to put in place infrastructure that allows us to continue to build in a really exciting way. And as we move ahead with the Global Engineering Initiative into future years, there's even the possibility of starting to think, what might it look like to start experimenting with this in workplaces? What might it look like to actually build into some of the regulatory requirements around continued professional development? But in order to be able to go to those exciting next steps, it requires that all of us across the EWB community work to put the base infrastructure in place across all the universities.